Welcome back to Next Gen Investors, teen run podcast, breaking down into 4 segments. We got last week's stock peaks, last week's stock picks, what happened last week in news side that affected the stock market, next week's stock market news, and then next week's stock picks. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, well, my last week's stock pick was GameStop, and it disappointed a little as it beat on earnings per share. It had 49 cents per share, but expected was 46 cents. But with revenue, it missed in revenue, which sent investors into a little bit of a frenzy. So it dipped a little bit, closing the week down a little bit down at 2.5%. Not too bad.
And another thing to add about GameStop's earnings is they launched their new Bitcoin reserve recently, and they said they've acquired now $500 million worth of Bitcoin as because their business quality is definitely dying. So I guess they're just trying to turn to a meme stock sort of by holding Bitcoin. So yeah, they did announce that they have $500 million in crypto. Now for my last week's stock pick, I had Pagaya. This is an AI fintech loan approving platform. And
You mean it's AI?
It's AI driven. They use AI to help
Everyone with the AI nowadays.
Yeah. So it was up a lot during the week. It rose up midweek. It was up 10 to 15%, but it ended up closing the week closing up about 2 to 3%. So let's get into what happened last week's stock market news and what affected the stock market last week.
Okay, well, of course, the war's still going on. It's kind of heating up, actually. There's more missiles being sent from Iran to Israel. And also, I just read on the Wall Street Journal that the Houthis just announced that they're going to enter the war backing Iran. Moreover, I saw that Iran actually stopped 2 allied Chinese ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So that's going to be interesting to really understand and dissect, because that's an ally of theirs that they're not respecting or helping. So too, with an enemy like Israel and America, it's going to be worse. And that will hurt the economy, but will boost the price of a barrel of oil.
So yeah, the war is definitely a big thing that's been impacting the markets these past few weeks. Another thing that recently came up is the stagflation fears, because when oil goes up, inflation goes up. That's just how it works. And rates are pretty high right now. The Fed funds rate is 3.5 to 3.75%, and the Fed doesn't have much room to raise a lot to slow down inflation. So there are these the real worries about stagflation happening. You have anything to comment on that? Or
Not really. I mean, the Fed's in a tough spot, and it's really going to come down to them to help save the market from this minor correction. I wouldn't say minor correction, but it's definitely a correction.
Yeah.
Lastly, tech sector hit a big hit. Meta shares plummeted 12% after they announced layoffs, and similar companies like Oracle, Tesla, and Amazon fell respectively 3% each.
Yeah, one thing to add about Meta is they had a lawsuit. It was Meta and YouTube that they got sued for being too addictive.
Oh yeah, I read about that.
So this is a big thing.
And they filed in they were found guilty.
Yeah, they were found guilty. So I mean, Meta had to pay $4 million and YouTube had to pay $2 million. That's pennies on the dollar, pennies.
That's not the important part. The important part is that they're going to have to discuss how their products are made and change that, because it's sad to say that people are getting depressed, they're dying, they're thinking their iPhone's their girlfriend or boyfriend. These things are a huge problem.
Yeah, the case was that it was a 6-year-old was addicted to YouTube and Instagram, and there are thousands of these other cases. So while $4 million for Meta is literally nothing, people are worried that even Reddit was majorly affected by this, and Snapchat, because this is one thing for all social media apps, and they could definitely be in danger from this.
Now let's check out what's happening next week. The most important thing by far will be the April 6th Iran deadline. This will decide, and we'll see whether Iran will allow oil tankers to exit the Persian Gulf. And if they do, this will really help markets rebound from what's happened in the past. If they don't, it'll just keep pummeling.
Yeah, and just to see the effects that if there's a plan that gets announced that ends this war. When Trump announced earlier this week that they had very progressive talks, which were like debated whether it was actually true. The markets rose 2% with him like each
Just 'cause he said that.
on the indices just because he tweeted that out. It's like
Also, wait, could you just pause for a second?
yeah.
I was talking this with my dad, and I really just want to highlight the fact that it's sad to say, but Trump's True Social account has a huge impact on the market. He decides where the market goes. It's crazy. This one guy decides how the whole country's market goes. One guy. He tweets something good, like what you said, Buffett. The market goes up. He tweets something bad. The market goes down. He has a monopoly on the market. If he wants to make money, he knows how to make the money, and yet he does it.
Yeah.
That's why he's the best president of all time.
Yeah, just one
I'm
thing
just
to
kidding.
think about it at a deeper level. Like, when you think about what Trump wants, Trump did want this to be a quick operation. And he obviously cares a lot about the stock market. This is like a known thing. And the stock market has definitely not been doing well from this Iran
He's a
war.
businessman.
And the big thing is midterms are coming up in November, and Trump's really gonna want this war
Yeah,
over
over
by
again,
then.
yeah.
He's gonna want to have a nice win for to run his campaign, like get
Also
everyone
win
to
an
vote for
award.
Republicans. You know, maybe try and get the Nobel Peace Prize again.
What do you mean
But-
again? He can get it. What?
Or he tried getting it once already.
Yeah.
So yeah, that can definitely be a big thing, and I do think everyone's pressing in that like this war might not ever end, but I think this war is coming to a close within the next 2 months probably.
That's a big window of time.
It is a
You
big
say
window. It is a big window, but I think that's like when you think about it from a longer term perspective, like 1-2 years out, like this isn't gonna have some major effects in the market.
that. Yeah.
Then just like some other things that are happening this week. Markets are closed for Good Friday this week, so keep that in mind when you're trading. Then there's ISM manufacturing PMI on Tuesday. And Warren, you want to hit us with the earnings for this week?
Lastly, there's Progress Software, which to be honest, I've never heard of in my life
Never heard
because
of
it's
it
a software
either.
company.
Yeah.
And Lululemon, oh my gosh, all the women go crazy for that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really know like anything about it except for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's time for the best segment of the week. Next week's stock picks. Alright, so mine is definitely more of a longer term play on this one. It's not like specifically for the next week.
The
But
long-term thesis is still intact.
this is going to be SoFi Technologies. SoFi has fallen over 50%
Wow.
from its high. This was a stock I originally bought at $8 and sold unfortunately at 10, and then it did run to 35, which was hard to see. But now it's trading back at $15. There's a short report released that they faked 90% of their EBITDA, which is like a big thing if they did, by Muddy Waters. So that was a big thing that sent the stock down like 10% in a day. But yeah, I think this stock is really undervalued. I think what they're going for, this like narrative of all your banking being online on one app, is really the future of like
Especially
banking.
also because it's not in person.
And
You don't have to pay for anything.
they pay for no.
Literally only customer service. Do they even have a line?
Yeah, they probably do. But
A lot
there's
of
no
the-
physical buildings. That's a big thing.
A lot of these companies I've seen started not paying for customer service centers, and they just have online FAQs. I really don't like it.
Yeah, or I've seen AI customer service now, which is definitely not
That's
so good.
crazy.
Yeah, so SoFi, I definitely think long term, this is an amazing company with an amazing CEO. The CEO actually just bought recently after
Yeah,
the
he
Muddy
just
Waters
paid
report.
90%.
Yeah, so
Or
even though the
sales,
fake
he's a
90%
great
of
guy.
the income, and the
Very
CEO is still
trustworthy.
buying. So yeah, I definitely think long term, this is a great opportunity to buy now.
Well, seems like a pretty not good idea, in my opinion, Buffett. But my pick is Elbit stock. Elbit's ticker, I think it's ELBT. Elbit stock is a defense company primarily out of Israel, and with the Houthis, my thinking is that with the Houthis getting involved in this war, there's going to be more rockets sent to Israel, which would allow for Elbit to help, I think, with the Iron Dome and obviously make sure no one dies. Also, I read that there's 90 million or billion, I think, no,
What?
yeah, there was 90 billion in orders that they haven't completed yet for these companies in Israel. So this will really help Elbit stock. And this week, as we mentioned earlier, the plan is supposed to start, but honestly, Iran's not going to follow it. They're not going to allow any ships through the Strait of Hormuz, and I think the war is going to keep up for this next week. So I think that's a great pick.
And just to add on top of that, so let's say even if the war does end, Israel realized that they are going to need a lot more of defense supplies just in general. So even if the war ends, they might send the stock down short term, but long term,
yeah.
Israel realizes, and they're the major buyer from Elbit. They realize that they're going to need a lot more defense equipment, rockets, whatever Elbit supplies to them, and I think that just creates a bigger revenue stream for them long term.
It's a great point. Thank you so much for joining on this week's podcast
of Next Gen Investors.